Like Atlanta is like a cultural like juggernaut. Like, you know,
Atlanta
just being
everything.
Yeah, it is.
Like I always say, like our culture travels well, and I think it travels better. Like people ask me all the time, like, is there going to be a Butter.LA or a Butter.NYC? And I'm like, you know, I don't know, because I always say I think that Atlanta's culture travels really well. You know, I think that like you can go to other places and throw an Atlanta party. You can't go everywhere else, you know, and throw a Chattanooga party. You know what I'm saying?
No one likes Chattanooga.
Self-quarantining.
And a quarantine order.
Quarantined in their...
Held in quarantine.
Quarantine.
The quarantine in place.
Quarantine for the required 14 days.
Hey, what's up, people? This is, of course, your friendly neighborhood Negro, JC. Welcome you back to the QT, but better known as Quarantine Talks. Hey, pop it. Today, I got on the show Mr. I-Cant-Believ-Its-Not-Butter himself, Brandon Butler. No relation, even though one is Butler and one is Butter. Anyway, we talk the ideation and creation of ButterATL, how he started this media company with the full backing, support, and resources of the company that he already works for, Dagger, and the steps and processes, or processes, I'm not really sure which one, the processes, I'm fancy today, he takes to make sure that the Butter team is a well-oiled machine. We also talk velocity to $1, one of his personal business mantras, some productivity and workflow hacks, and how the Butter team made sure they did 404 day the right way. Shout out to AT&T. Y'all kind of hit the... Nah, y'all ain't do that at all. It was weird. I don't know. Shout out to ButterATL for doing it the right way. And last but not least, we talk what's next for Dark Zuckerberg. That's his nickname. Butter expansion to other cities, and the thing that Brandon makes him feel most Atlanta. I'll give you a hint. It involves a strip club on the west side when he was 13. It don't get more Atlanta than that, baby. This was one of the most informative business conversations I've ever had. I truly enjoyed it. I learned a lot. Y'all will too. Stay tuned. Coming up right now. Bye.
Shake that monkey.
And ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you so much for joining Quarantine Talks. I am JC, and today I got with me Brandon Butler, man. Go ahead and I kind of told him who you were, but go ahead and tell him what you do and where you're from.
Man, what you tell him? I want to know. What you said.
Oh man, well I told him your name. I'll put it like that.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'll let you do the introduction. I'm a pile on top of it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Brandon Butler, executive director for ButterATL. We're a media company based here in Atlanta that tries to make the dopest content possible about the culture of Atlanta. So, you know, I got a great team of creatives that work with me, and you know, we just make it happen on a daily basis.
I feel like you succeed. Ain't no trying in it, bro. I feel like y'all succeed. Y'all do dope work. I'm a fan.
Appreciate it.
I want to get like the formal stuff off, and then we get the real questions going. So how did Butter get started, and why did you come up with the name of Butter? Like, why not margarine? Or, you know, like vegetable oil or Spam.
Yeah. So I get asked all the time. I'll start with the name because that's probably the least interesting part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I get asked that kind of all the time, and I really need to come up with a better story for it. I just haven't had the time to think about it yet. But you know, my last name is Butler. Everybody thinks that I named it after myself. I didn't. So Butter was started. I also work for an agency out here in Atlanta called Dagger. I'm the vice president of technology. So like my background is actually in computer science, tech, which a lot of people don't realize. That's what I've pretty much done my whole career.
Yeah, you don't went to like every school in Georgia, man. Like, how them loans doing, brother?
You know, hey man, look, you know what I'm saying? You know, man, look, you know, we got, you know, I was good till I went to grad school. I was good till I went to Georgia Tech, you know, but it pays for itself. So, you know, it is what it is. You know, hopefully, Bernie Sanders will slide some of that stuff through and get some of these student loans disappear. But yeah, man, I work for an agency out here in Atlanta, as the VP of technology. And, I was also running project management at the time. And, Dagger is a creative shop. We're the fastest growing agency in Atlanta. And kind of one of our things we try to just do different is we just try to think about what are different ways like agencies and creatives can kind of show up. I've worked in like the agency space for a while. And reality is a lot of folks talk a good game, but they don't actually back it up. Right. So, we just try to be a little bit more, proactive. And, we kind of decided one of the things that a lot of agencies and brands always say is, brands and companies should act like media companies, but nobody actually ever does it. Agencies will go out and sell it and convince brands to do that. But then it's like, okay, well, how are you acting like a media company? You know? And so what we kind of decided to do was let's just start our own media company. At that time it was more about just an idea of hey, is this a capability we can kind of stand up? I always, saw kind of a bigger opportunity for it. So, again, as a member of the leadership team there, I was having some conversations with, our CEO and just, basically, kind of convinced them to let us just kind of take this thing and just make it our own. It originally kind of started off as a side project, for the agency. Then it pretty quickly kind of grew into its own, division, / business. Mm-hmm. And that was because, I tell everybody, I didn't, go to Georgia Tech to run an Instagram page. You know what I'm saying? I saw the opportunity to kind of help build it into something. Also have background in, media and radio and TV. So again, I kind of saw this as an opportunity and, again, got with the team we had and just really kind of started focusing on making dope stuff. So that's kind of how, Butter came around. Again, the name was really just something we were just kind of kicking around different names. I don't even know what the second place name was, honestly. But we like very short, succinct names, and Dagger again is the name of kind of the parent company. Butter was kind of the name that just jumped out and it just kind of stuck. And then, you kind of think butter, it's Southern, it goes on everything, it spreads. So, so I could finesse it, you know what I'm saying? Make it sound like it was something that we all strategically kind of came up with in the beginning, but it kind of just came up and stuck. And, the stuff that we do with Dagger, again, I get asked a lot. Everybody thinks there's some ulterior motive. I get asked is Butter Dagger's way of creating content for Black people? And the reality is Butter is just what if you could make cool shit? Right. And it's really just that simple. Right. And it's what if you could make cool shit and if you could build, a business or a revenue model around it. So, that's really what it is. And, it's a very good separation of church and state. I don't have brands commanding and telling me what to do. We pretty much run autonomously, which, give a lot of props and respect to the rest of the leadership team at Dagger for kind of letting us take this thing and make it our own. And that's why it feels authentic and it doesn't feel like it's something that's, baked up in a lab, is because, we have, resources, but again, we also have the ability to kind of be autonomous and just make dope stuff. You know what I'm saying?
So you were able to basically, with the company that you already work for, create an offshoot for another company and then head up that company as a separate department.
Bingo.
I knew I liked you. I knew I liked you, man. Oh, man. So talking about that, Butter seems to be, it has the appearance of kind of an overnight type of thing, and I personally, as someone that does shit, know that that's not how that works. So how did you get it to pop? And when did you know that you had some, good on your hands? When did you know that butter was, melting all over everything?
When we first started, we launched officially, it was July of 2018, I believe. Mm-hmm. And we had we did a launch party in October. And I remember we did the launch party. I was so happy. I think we had 500 followers by the time we did the launch party. And I was so happy about that. Right. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so at that point I knew that we were on to something, right? Because we were just we originally launched, we kind of had this original strategy where we would do this whole seamless grid. and like all the content was tied in. And again, that was a strategy to kind of help us just stand out. And, and so
I saw
think
that
people
too.
saw
It
that.
looks very interesting on the page. Like when you scroll all the way down, like that looks very
Yeah.
dope. It's clean.
Yeah, that was kind of the original format, right? As we were like making this content to where it was almost like a magazine style release, you know what I'm saying? And like, and everything was tied together. And that was really because we had and we still do have like the creative team to do it. But I just would hear like really good feedback from people. Like there would be times when I would be out, like just randomly out and about. I would always like find ways to bring it up. And I just started more and more hearing people like being like, oh yeah, I know about that. I heard about that. I remember I was out, my aunt, she's like, in her, I ain't gonna say her age, but she's up there a little bit.
You bet
like,
not.
She was at this church event out in Stone Mountain, and I went out there and it was for her. And she was like, hey, Brandon, will you come up here and say something about butter? And I'm like, no, like it's a church event. Like, everybody in here is over 50. Like nobody knows what butter or probably Instagram is. But she was like, boy, come up here and say something. So I went up there and said it. And like 4 or 5 people came to me after and was like, yo, I follow butter. I've heard of, you know what I mean? And so, when you start going different places and you start hearing people bring it up, and like I've always I knew it was like on to something, but yeah, we had the launch party. I remember I was just like super excited. We had like 100 people RSVP to sign up. So, I mean, I can definitely see like there's inflection points. I mean, it was not an overnight thing. Right. I can definitely say there's like, there's like points where it kind of like went and it jumped and it goes and it kind of jumps. And I think, with everything else, we just try to be consistent. I think for us, one thing I'm really proud of and happy about is, again, like I said, we got a dope team that helps, make all the content, that we've showed up, pretty much every day, for the last 2 years, you know what I'm saying? Like with something new, something original, 7 days a week. And I think that, if anything, that, is my hope, that really led to like a lot of the growth that we've seen as well.
And so like, how do you guys come up with your ideas? Cause like, there's very like, you guys, I was just on the page and you guys have a Where's Andre, like off of Where's Waldo. And I'm like, that's just so like, the ideas are so creative and engaging. Like it kind of, it forces you as a person that has lived in Atlanta now for like 8 years, originally from DC by way of North Carolina, blah, blah, blah. But like as a person that's lived here, it's always intriguing to me because like I know Atlanta from the stance of being here so long and, being a pizza delivery driver and riding my bike all over the city and just living in different parts of the city. So I kind of get a feel for like the history, but the way that you guys do your content is like, it's very interesting to see like that merger of pop culture, true Atlanta shit, and then like, this new thing. So how do you guys come up with your ideas?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, we got a dope team.
Shout out to Mobs.
Yeah, Mobs.
Shout out to Mobs.
I'm saying? I always tell everybody Mobs is really in charge. She's like our managing editor that helps really drive a lot of the content, makes a lot of the stuff. India, dope designer. Actually, when I was launching Butter, we were doing a piece of content on the Claremont Lounge, and I was just, I don't think we'd even posted our first thing yet. I was like just looking for inspiration. And I was on the Claremont Lounge hashtag on IG, and she had made something about Claremont, and I just saw it. It was like, yo, that's dope. And I DM'd her and was like, yo, I'm not a weirdo. I saw this thing you made, and it's dope. Like, let me know if you'll have a meeting with me. And she was just freelancing. And then we, she came in, she freelanced for us, and now she's a full-time, member of the team, right? Amanda Shrembreck, another great designer. She's who did that whole Where's Waldo thing, Where's Andre thing, and then Jamal Harris and Ralph, you know what I'm saying? Like, we got a great team. So, I mean, a lot of the ideas, I'm the MBA. So like, I always try to, if anything, kind of provide structure. But I'm a big believer in kind of letting creative people be creative, so like I kind of give, directional guidance. As a person that grew up in Atlanta, been here pretty much my whole life, like I kind of give directional guidance, like, hey, here are like the pillars, the themes, right? Because a lot of the team is a lot younger than me. So like a lot of the stuff they honestly just hadn't experienced. But like, it's kind of like, I think it's that blend of old and new. Like that's what I kind of call culture, right? Like there's certain things they know about or into that I don't really rock with that much. But again, me as a leader, right? Like I recognize that's our audience. So, if it's dope, it's dope. And, we find a way to kind of incorporate it. So yeah, I mean, for us, again, like the ideas come from everywhere. We kind of, think about if you want to get to like super simple, like old Atlanta versus new Atlanta. And then, you just kind of think about what are all the different components and aspects of that. And I think one of the reasons why our content really works is because, we don't just like randomly post stuff. Again, like everything we post, like one of my big beliefs is that every piece of content should have a job. And like content does different jobs, right? Like, the where's Andre post, right? Like when people see that, they see it, but then they want to share it because like they see all the other little details. Like there was one part where like, one of the vans has a boot on it. You know what I mean? And like people are like, oh, that's dope, right? And then what happens is when they share it, they use it to like make a point or tell a story. So, for us, we think about, we spend a lot of time thinking about the job that we want our content to do. Another good example is like, we always have this one code that we say like, this is me, right? Like, if you create a piece of content and somebody sees it and they're like, yeah, this is so me. You know what I mean? Like for us, we actually looked at the comments and like, if we intentionally design a piece of content with the goal of people seeing that being like their response to be like, yeah, this is so me. Like for me, I'm a huge Outkast fan, right? So like say we made a post about Outkast and, and somebody sees that, like, and then you look at the comments, we know that post worked because the result is it's doing what we wanted to do. And I think for us, we try to think about that kind of stuff all the time. That's why, it's just not like random stuff. Like it's not just about likes, it's not just about comments, you know what I'm saying? Like if we want to do that, we just make memes all day,
right.
Because that's what works. But for us, we try to make content and we recognize that like every piece isn't gonna, get 10,000 likes, and that's cool. You know what I mean? Some pieces going to get, a couple hundred, you know what I'm saying? Because they maybe talk to like a more niche audience. Some pieces might get, 10,000 because they maybe speak to like a broader audience, but that's cool because like I said, we're not building content for Instagram for the algorithm. We're building content for like people that, love and care and like, and know what Atlanta like really represents.
Right. And one of the things that, or one of the people that let me know that Yall was like official was Rachel, right? Rachel Jackson, because that's
shout out Rachel.
Yeah, that's the homie. I've known her. Gosh, she was one of the first people I met when I moved here, and so like when I saw the Atlantapedia, I was like, ha ha, that's that girl. Okay, yeah, y'all are doing something. I like that. And I started paying attention to you guys a lot more, and just the way that you guys shoot out your content, and like it's all very planned and very thought out, and it's very purposeful. And I'm like, I love it. So yeah, this is why I sent you an email. I was like, hey, yo, come be on my show, please. So here we are, man. How did you go about staffing your team? Because that's a big part of any organization.
So yeah, I mean, again, what's interesting with that is with Dagger, especially because I mean everybody's technically an employee of Dagger, you know what I mean? But like for us, one thing about Dagger that's like really unique is I could definitely say culture is a big thing. And I know that's a word people like throw around a lot. And, but I can honestly say like, culture is important there. And so, and we do a lot of stuff to make sure that like we get the right people on the bus. You know what I'm saying? So, one is the people that are on Butter were kind of brought in through that culture process of like making sure that they kind of vibe, with the culture of the organization. Again, like when I think about like folks like, Indy and some of the other folks that started with us, I know me personally, I have a rule just because I've been an entrepreneur, I've done startups in the past. And one thing I've learned is, bad people, like bad hires, especially early on, can like really screw things up. Mm-hmm. So, I was super big on, avoiding that and, making sure that, we didn't like me and the team didn't like fall out, over some BS. Cause, I can be a little direct sometimes. I recognize that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to get stuff done. And I think, anybody that watched the Michael Jordan documentary or the Kobe documentary, I mean, leadership also takes like, holding people accountable. Right. But I think for me, one of the things that we did that I'm really proud of is, I actually made the team read a book. Before we started making content for Butter. The name of the book was called Radical Candor. And kind of the idea was, look, we're about to go down and we're about to start something. And like, I don't know how it's going to end up. I said, but one thing I do know is that I don't want this thing to fall apart because like somebody's like, they said something to me funny, or like this person looked at me funny. You know what I mean? It's like, I've been a part of like so many things that had the potential to be great that like fell apart because of some BS like that. So I literally made the team sit down, and I think we read like the first half of the book, because it's actually one of the best books I've ever read about like management and leadership. And like, we just had conversations about it. The whole idea was like, look, you know, if you ever played sports, like, you know, like when you're on a field, somebody might say something like, yo, get your ass over there.
Right.
Like, you don't stop and be like, hey, you don't talk to me like that. You know what I mean? You go and you get your ass over there.
Yeah.
Because that person's trying to put you in a position to be successful. They're trying to put you in a position for the team to win. And you know that there's not like some kind of like ill intent behind it, right? And so what I wanted to do is make sure that didn't happen with Butter. So, you know, your question, that was one of the things I think we did that really made sure that we had the right people on the team. And that, you know, we can have those kind of conversations. Like, if something's dope, it's dope. If something's not working, it's not working. You know, and like, ain't nobody's feelings trying to get hurt. Ain't nobody coming in here trying to like tear nobody down. But right. It is what it is, right? And then, you know, for the people that that we hired, like, I have a rule that's, you can't work for me till you work for me. Especially, again, something right now so small. So, you know, the people that started, a lot of them came on as freelancers. You know, again, like, I just don't have the luxury, and we don't have the luxury to, you know, to make a bad hire. You know what I mean? A bad hire for us could put us out of business. So, you know, early on, you know, it was just like, look, you know, like, you know, we want you to be here, but, you know, like, freelance for a while. And then when things worked out, we convert people over, right? So those are some of the things that we've kind of done that I think have made it work. And, you know, we've had hiccups, we've had stuff like any other team, but I think, again, we kind of did some of the work up front so that when those things happen, it didn't just blow this whole thing up. Because I've just seen that happen over and over and over again. And I just wasn't going to let it happen in this situation.
You can't work for me until you work for me.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. I like that. I like that. I'll play that. I'll use that. I'm stealing it. How much, being that you are like the computer science guy, how much do you think of Butter's popularity is like SEO, targeted marketing direction, and how much do you think it's like just classic street team, like you said earlier, being at your auntie church, like, hey, I got this thing called Butter. Like, how much do you think, is it 50-50, or how much do you think, does it lean more one way or the other?
I mean, I'd say it's probably close to 50-50 now. Mm-hmm. You know, I think early on, you know, again, like I'm a big believer in, you know, you got to get your stuff out there. Distribution is what matters, right? So like, you know, paid and promoting our posts were a big part of our strategy early on, because like we were making dope stuff, but you got to get it out there. And, you know, like they all, you know, again, as a tech person, I can tell you that any platform that's free, you know, you're usually the product. Mm-hmm. So, you know, like for us, it was like, you know, we could sit here and post stuff and wait for people to find it, but we also wanted to kind of give it a shot in the arm by, you know, paying and promoting posts, you know what I'm saying, just to get the reach out there. So, I mean, we did a good amount of that for a while. We kind of toned it back a little bit, you know what I mean? Just because like I felt like we kind of hit scale and we started like using those dollars for some other stuff. So, but I would say, you know, a big part of it, honestly, you know, is also just been from just being strategic, you know what I'm saying? And just like in doing things that I say like don't scale, you know what I mean? Like we did 404 day, and like we launched this whole virtual 404 day photo booth, you know, and like one of the things we did was we created a bunch of social media graphics for like over 100 influencers by hand, so we could get them out the door. And then we launched like the virtual photo booth for anybody to come in. Well, like that's why it worked, you know what I mean? But that doesn't scale. Like you can't do that for 10,000 people. But again, like I can look at that day and say, okay, we did this. This was the result. This is the growth. Like I can point back to those things. So I think it's been a mix of both, you know. I think if you have the ability, because again, like that's how all these platforms are, you know what I'm saying? And I think, you know, it's easy when you create stuff that is, so I always use this example. I always say there's three kinds of content. There's vitamin, candy, and painkillers, right? And, you know, candy content to me is like, you know, it just doesn't have a ton of value, right? Like I always think about like gossip as an example. Like nothing wrong with gossip, you know what I mean? But like it's gossip, you know what I'm saying? vitamins, you know what I'm saying? I always say like, that's the kind of content. I always call that like the Gary V motivational content. Like it's great to post, hustle and motivation content, but if you don't actually do anything, if you don't actually stop and check, then you can't really tell if like it's working, if you're actually being motivated. And then like there's painkillers, there's stuff that actually like solves a problem. There's content, you look at it, you save it. There's content, you look at it, you share it. It's kind of, you know what I'm saying? It's, so, for us, I think what's interesting is like candy is what spreads organically on social. Mm-hmm. Whether it's some IG model twerking or it's a fight or it's it's like a meme, right? Like the reality is candy it's simple. It's easy to make. There's not a lot of value that goes to it. And it is what it is. And I ain't mad at nobody that makes candy, but like, for us, I always say what you don't want to do is you don't want to think you're making painkillers and you're actually making candy. Mm-hmm. And so for us, I have no doubt that if we posted more salacious stuff, we would grow faster. But that's just not what I'm trying to do. Like, and again, there's no offense to like nobody's doing that, right. But like, it's just not us. Because I think for us, we have a different type of plan. We have a different type of business model. We have different type of, objectives and goals that we're trying to reach. And, again, I could easily come up and create content that would, every time I post it, it's like, boom, it's what people want to see and it's giving them all these likes. But I think, when we look back at it, it would probably do us more disservice, or it would make people perceive us in a way that we're not trying to be perceived, or it would, impact our ability to like monetize and all that kind of stuff down the road. So, man, we just, I think about all this stuff and I see it all. But I think for us, like we've got a pretty good situation worked out. We're just trying to make stuff that works for our audience.
And so speaking to that, you often talk about velocity to $1. Yeah. What is?
Also, you heard one of my other interviews. Okay.
Oh yeah, I do my research, brother. I'll be out here in this thing, bro. I don't know. I tried to find your Facebook page. I couldn't do it. So yes, congrats, because of course, yeah, computer. I thought about it after I saw the first interview. I said, oh, he's IT. That's why I can't find anything. Makes sense. Cool. I had to like do things like a whole different method. But so like, what is the velocity to $1 with butter media or media type companies?
It's a good question. So I think, with media companies, I think the velocity to $1 is figuring out who your audience is. I think a lot of people get the game messed up. You know what I mean? I really don't think that, like everybody's like ads. Like I don't think that ads are a viable way for a media company to be sustainable, full stop. Just because in order to like really monetize off of ads, like you have to have what I call tonnage. If you're not getting 1 million hits a day, it ain't gonna work. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it ain't gonna generate enough revenue for it to like actually, like I read something the other day and I think they said like, for example, like a YouTube channel, like it was this YouTube channel, they got like 80 million hits and I think they generated like $200,000 in revenue. And the reality is, I'm just saying, like, that's not a lot of money for $80 million, 80 million impressions.
It's like very little.
Yeah. So, I think, with media companies, I think, that's the first mistake I hear is every time I talk to somebody, really any company, everybody's first thing is ads and sponsors. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work just because, one, you probably don't have the traffic to actually make it work. Two, when's the last time you clicked on an ad? You know what I'm saying? Or three, like, if you have an ad blocker on, like raise your hand, right? Like I'm just saying, like, you can't base it off of that. So I think for a lot of media companies, businesses in general, I think it kind of falls in like two camps. If I kind of keep it like really high level, I think there's the idea of the true 1,000 and the true 100 fans. So the true 1,000 fans says that like anybody who can amass a following of like 1,000 people that will love, consume anything they do and spend like $100 a year and build a sustainable business, which I agree with. The catch on that is that usually means that in order for them to support you, they're really supporting like you as a business.
Right.
In other words, they're buying your t-shirts. They think it's cool. You know what I'm saying? They're coming to your event. Like it's all about you. And that unfortunately what happens is there becomes like a scale, like you can only scale with that. So you have to reach more people because you can't is they call it like, getting more value out of your users, right? I think the other way to look at it is the model of kind of like the true 100, which basically is, instead of trying to get 1,000 people to give you $100, what if you got 100 people to give you $1,000? And what happens is, though, in order for that to work, is you have to kind of flip the model. You have to think about what are the kind of high-end experiences that your audience wants from you that may not be scalable. And then, so you really put your audience first. In other words, like for Butter, for example, right? Like if I was taking that true 100, I could say, okay, I know, for example, Butter could put out a t-shirt and we could sell it. Okay. That's the 1,000 fan model. So we could put out a t-shirt, we could drop it, we could sell it for $10 a head and make a bunch of money. Cool. But that scales so high, right? Like the other way to look at it is we could ask ourselves, what does our audience want? Right. And then we could create a product or a service that does that. And then we could charge more money for it. So an example of a higher price ticket might be like, look, for example, like I know that people like what we do with Butter. So like I could launch a, social media, Mastermind Group. I'm not like a big fan of that name, but I mean, I could basically say
it is
like,
a weird name.
Yeah, but like, you know what I mean? Like, look,
Yeah.
if you want to launch your own social media channel like Butter, pay $100 a month. We'll give you, here's a bunch of free trainings that we'll do. You get access to these videos on how we ideate, how we come up with ideas. We'll have our designers talk about how they design. We'll have our copywriters talk about how they write copy. And then, once a month or twice a month, like we'll do office hours with you. So, if you have a post you want us to look at, submit it, and then we'll log in and we'll do a Zoom live once a month and we'll review everything that's been submitted and give our feedback. And the reason why we're launching this is because you want to start a social media channel like Butter that's successful. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, that's something that you could charge a higher price point for and get less people, but it's more intense. You know what I mean? As opposed to saying, I'm going to sell a t-shirt. So I think with brands and media companies, they have to kind of figure out, and I don't think it's mutually exclusive. I think you can do a little bit of both. I know we do, right? Like, so, you're going to definitely see merch from Butter, but I think you're going to see like more, experiential kind of 100 fan type things coming up in the future. And I think it's a mix of those things, in my opinion, that media companies and brands should be doing. Again, it's all about building the audience and then putting things in front of your audience that are valuable to them, they would want to get. And I don't think enough brands look at it like that. I think people look at it as just get a big number. And then, as we kind of call it, go fishing with a shotgun. Like, I'm going to send this out to 1 million people. And I mean, the numbers hypothetically do sometimes work, but it's just not efficient. You know what I mean? Because then you're only based on how big of an audience can you build. And when you build that huge of an audience, you also, you typically don't build a lot of engagement with it. So you might get 1 million people, but they're not going to be 1 million engaged people, which is going to then impact your ability to sell stuff. So yeah, I just think, that's the way that I'm just a big fan of build an audience, look at your audience, and then find things to put in front of your audience that they would want to get as a way to, monetize and all that kind of stuff.
That sounds like that's the one thing I always tell people is that you have to get like one person to love you before 10 people like you. And like that one hardcore diehard fan is gonna go hard in the paint and change a couple no's to maybes to yeses. And it goes down like that. And you're able to kind of like you said, like more directly pinpoint and market and build a strategy that makes you work smarter instead of harder. Because that's the other thing. It's like you make these, you sell a Butter t-shirt for $10. You have to, unless you are proactive in the way that you are doing this, you have to you account for costs and overhead and all of these things where it's like, you can just find the people that want the damn shirt. You're like, oh yeah, we got this, so.
Yeah. And how many t-shirts can you sell? I think that's the other part. Like, we're Butter, right? Like, we're not God is dope. You know what I'm saying? So like for us, if every month we were coming out with a t-shirt, that would work, but I think at a certain point people get a little tired of it. You know what I mean? And so again, I think there's a mix of it, right? There's just like, these are things we can do. But then, you don't want to take advantage of your audience and like, you don't want to feel like you're just milking them for all their money. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's an exchange of, there are things that, you want to buy because you like what we do, like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I think it's important to ask yourself, like, what does my audience want selfishly for themselves? And do I have the ability to give that to them? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Another thing that I like that I've heard you say, because it's true, and I've never heard anybody say it this way. If you're gonna commit to something, you gotta commit through the good and the bad to it. So, like, I think we're on the good side of, you know, what you have with butter, but what sucks about butter?
What sucks about butter? I mean, I think, you know, for me, it's probably sometimes the perceptions. Again, like, I think people think there's like some ulterior motive. You know, people think I'm a plant. You know what I mean? People be like, "Oh, you ain't really from Atlanta. I grew up in Stone Mountain. My bad." But you know what I'm saying? I've been in the metro Atlanta area for a long time. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think, you know, I moved to Atlanta when I was 1, you know what I'm saying? And I'm 39 now. So anybody who thinks I'm not from Atlanta can kiss my ass. You know what I'm saying? But, like, you know, I think it's that. I think the other part is just, you know, it's just, you know, it's Atlanta's an entertainment city. You know, like, I didn't come into this butter game with some, you know, deep connections to the entertainment business. You know what I'm saying? I was an IT guy for a long time. I was a programmer, developer.
That is the most far left of entertainment on the front end that you can get. Like,
yeah, you know, I used to work in radio. I used to work for radio and TV stations,
right.
So I knew people, but, like, I wasn't like an on-air talent. Right. So, you know, I think, you know, one of the things that's always been, you know, a challenge is, like I said, we haven't really done a lot of stuff on music, which is really a big part of Atlanta. And that's just because, you know, we just have to build those relationships. But at the same time, you know, I'm glad that we've had to build them slowly because it's given us opportunity to focus on other stuff. You know, because Atlanta's not just about, you know, trap music, you know what I'm saying, and all that kind of stuff. There's lots of different layers to it. It's not just about ITP or OTP. It's not just about the belt line. And so, again, like that limitation, I think, made just new ways to be creative. You know, and just people just not getting it. You know, you get a lot of, again, I'm a pretty private person. And, you know, you just get, like, a lot of people hitting you up asking for stuff, which is just a new thing for me. You know what I mean? And, like, you know, podcast interviews are cool, you know, but, like, literally you just get, like, cold emails, like, give me a job. Like, not even a resume attached, bro. Like, you just gonna email me and say, give me a job. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that kind of stuff is always interesting. You know what I'm saying?
I think that you got to look at that twofold. Is that on the one hand, that is super weird and kind of irritating, annoying. But on the other hand, you got to look at it like, damn, I created something that connects with people in such a way, like, they just want to be a part of the thing. So
yeah, I don't take it. Yeah, I don't take it personal. I mean, if anything, I try to, like, hit people up because I tell them, like, you know, this is a business. Like, I don't have unlimited resources. You know what I'm saying? So, if anything, you know, I do try to give people just directional, like, yo, when you hit up people, like, try to bring value first.
Right.
You know, like, even if it's not me, like, you know, because that's a big thing, even with me is, and even with Dagger, like, I have a big initiative to kind of get more Black people of color, you know what I'm saying, in the funnel for, like, agency and marketing jobs in general. You know, having worked in marketing for a while, I used to be the VP of digital for Edelman, which is the biggest PR firm in the world. I used to run digital for their Atlanta office, Accenture, a bunch of other places. So that's also been kind of an initiative of mine that I've just kind of been pushing with Butter on the side of, like, yo, even if, you know, Dagger or Butter doesn't hire you, like, understand there's a whole world out here of agencies that you should also pay attention to. Because, you know, it's some cool stuff and it's always fun to be able to get paid for your creativity.
Do you feel like timelines are a thing? And I say that in the way that, like, okay, having been a few places, I feel like the American condition is we need to be graduated by, like, 25, graduated by 22, have a job by 25, have kids by 30, you know, there's this, that, and the third. Or we need to have, like, Butter needs to be at 20,000 followers in 3 months type of situation. Do you feel like those timelines are real, or do you feel like it's more of a ebb and flow kind of thing?
I mean, I think you set goals, right? Like, I think, you know, like, if you want to get to 20K, I think that's a goal that you should set. And I think and then, so I always say like there's, intention and attention, right? So like you set intention for the future with paying attention to what's in front of you.
Okay.
So if you want to get to 20K, that's cool. That's your intent. And you want to get there by a certain date, cool. Like put a frame around it because you need to have a date on your goal. But then the question becomes is, what are you going to do every day? What are you going to pay attention to every day in order to get to 20K? Like that's the way I kind of look at things. You know what I'm saying? And even if you fall short, like let's say, the day comes and you're at 19.5. Well, I don't think you like failed. You know what I'm saying? Like, 'cause there's subjective. So, now when it comes to like a person's, a person individually, me, I was all over the place growing up. Like, again, I was always doing different businesses, working. I had a lot of jobs. Cause if I didn't like something, I would try something else. You know what I'm saying?
Same.
And like, and then when I graduated, let's say I had my degree, my mentality was I can always go get me another computer job. You know what I'm saying? Which, I appreciated the fact that I had skills and kind of do that. So like for me, I would just try stuff. And that would mean like, I'd do this job. Oh, okay. I like it. Cool. If I didn't like it, I go get another job. Cause you can use computer. There's always a job for you.
Right.
At one point I moved to LA to go DJ for a year and a half. Right.
Really?
Like, I just moved out there. I had some family.
Are you any good at DJing?
Say what now?
Are you any good at the DJing?
Not anymore. I make some fire playlists. But, man, I went out to LA and even out there, like while I was doing that, I was still making money doing like online stuff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like building websites and everything. And that's always my mentality is just like, I got skills. And I think that's what people should also look at is like, what are the kinds of skills that are always going to be useful? I mean, I think copywriting is one. I think creative is a skill. Creative is a little subjective, but like, when I mean creative, I mean like design, but like, I know copywriting is one, web, computers is one. And I think people should also be asking themselves, like, what kind of skills are going to be needed in 2021 when everybody's wearing a mask, right? So, again, I think, if people are looking for a way to pivot, this is a great opportunity to like remake yourself.
Right.
Because there's not any one right path. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. So, if anything, I would tell people the biggest thing I kind of did was I failed a lot early, and I'm very transparent about that kind of stuff. I've, owned houses when I was 25 and lost them. You know what I'm saying? Like it is what it is, but I learned a lot. Own a house now. It's cool. Love it. You know what I'm saying? So you can always come back. And so I think for me, it's just, I did a lot of stuff and tried a lot of stuff early. Some stuff worked, some stuff didn't, but I, always kind of tried. I just got a lot of experiences, and I would just highly, highly recommend that other people do the same thing. Is just try to get as many experiences, try it, fail, cool. You're still alive. You know what I'm saying? Like try it again. Like I'm telling you, you got way more time than you think you got.
What's a productivity hack, or maybe top productivity hacks for you?
My big one is Audible. I listen to a lot of books on tape. I kind of hate because I haven't been in the car as much lately, but I think last year I listened to like 20 books on tape. And when I say like books, like I don't mean like self-help. Like I'm looking like, like
the thick books.
Robert Greene's Laws of Human Nature. It's like a 900-page book. You know what I'm saying? Like I can listen to that in the car in like a week and a half. And I know for me, I don't have the time to like sit down and open the book and read it. So I try to just make use of that time. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm always on Audible. I just downloaded a new book the other day. It's called Storyworthy. It's like about the art of storytelling.
Okay.
Just like how to tell stories, right? So I think, I think one productivity hack for me is just like always like figure out a way that you learn and like always be learning. Look, again, I love rap music. I love everything, but I mean, I can only listen to Trap or Die in the car so many times going to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, the biggest productivity hack for me has probably been like over the last year and a half. Like I really don't listen to the radio. I really only listen to like podcasts and books on tape. At least in the morning, maybe in the afternoon, what I'm saying?
Kind of give yourself a break, weave in, weave out.
Yeah. But especially in the morning, just help me kind of gather my thoughts and stuff like that. So, I mean, that would probably be a big one. The other one I would say is, just figure out how you work. I know I'm a morning person. I know me, I wake up at, 5, 6 a.m. and I'm ready to go. And, then by about 11, 12, I'm kind of like, all right, and then by the afternoon, and I'm just good with that, right? So like I really try to get my stuff done when I feel the most productive. And like when I'm not feeling it, I just try to find ways to get my mind off of it. You know what I mean? I used to like really stress myself out, but like now I'm just like, all right, this is just the way that I'm wired. So, understand yourself and figure out how you learn. And, again, like just try to use, time you have efficiently. You know what I'm saying?
What about social media hacks and/or advice?
Biggest piece of advice I give you for IG is, so I don't have actual facts for this, but based on my understanding of tech, this is how I think Instagram works. And based on like all the stuff we posted from Butter and thousands of posts, what happens is Instagram looks at your audience, right? And based on your audience, it is able, with all their magic of Silicon Valley and billions of dollars of engineers, it's able to basically build a profile of like what the things that people follow you like. Right. And so what happens is that when you post something that's like really in line with what your audience likes, they will see it and engage with it. And then if they kind of hit like these markers of engagement within certain time frames, then Instagram will push it to more people organically. And it's the same. And the reason why that works is because that's how Facebook ads work. That's how, the way that Facebook ads work is Facebook wants to show your ad to the most people, the most relevant people at the lowest cost. So all Facebook ads have what's called a relevance score on a scale of 1 to 10. Or if you run an ad and it's like super relevant to the audience, you'll get a higher score and you get a lower cost per click. If you run an ad that's not relevant to your audience, you get a lower relevance score and a higher cost per click because it's working harder to show people your shitty content.
Right.
So, Instagram is really just the free version of that same algorithm, right? Like, in other words, if you really look at your audience, like, for example, Butter's audience likes Atlanta. So when we post things about Atlanta, they take off quickly. Like when I say things, I mean like things that are like obvious Atlanta, like it's a picture of downtown. Boom. Within 5 minutes, it's crazy. If we post things that are like, it's Atlanta-esque, but it's like not up front, it's a slower ramp, right? Like maybe, in the first 20 minutes, it's 200 likes, but then within 24 hours, it's 2,000. And then if you post something that's like, you know what, like this is not really Atlanta related at all, then you see then you literally see all of a sudden 200 likes, you know what I mean? So it's very easy to kind of see like the more you understand your audience and the more you put content in front of them, like the algorithm will do the rest. So you just have to ask yourself, am I posting things that like I want to see, or am I posting things that my audience wants to see? And, one thing that I think we've gotten really good at is posting things that our audience wants to see.
I've told this story once before, but I was in Japan. I was in Tokyo. And we were in Harajuku. And out of nowhere, they had like these big music trucks. Like it was a truck blaring music, and then it would have the album cover or the single cover on the side, on either side of it. So it would drive through the city. And it's like in the middle of Japan at like 10 o'clock at night, I heard the Camila Cabello Young Thug song. And I was like, whoa. Because, in that song, she's talking about all of these things in East Atlanta, so on and so forth. And I'm like, yo, I had this like very surreal moment of like, here I am 10,000 miles away from Atlanta and like just culture. Blatantly. People don't even know, like Japanese people probably can't even say East Atlanta correctly. But you understand what I'm saying? To hear it in a song juxtaposed to me in front of that and just have that connection made, I was like, damn, like that is, like Atlanta is like a cultural like juggernaut. Like, just being
everything.
Yeah, it is.
Like I always say, like our culture travels well, and I think it travels better. Like people ask me all the time, like, is there going to be a Butter.LA or a Butter.NYC? And I'm like, I don't know, because I always say, I think that Atlanta's culture travels really well. I think that like you can go to other places and throw an Atlanta party. You can't go everywhere else, and throw a Chattanooga party. You know what I'm saying?
No one likes Chattanooga.
And to your point, I spent some time in Beijing and Shanghai, and I saw the same thing. Like I was in the club, and like they was in there rocking T.I. and Jeezy,
right?
like it wasn't nothing. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I've seen it myself, man.
It's so strange to have like that one-on-one connection with a place, and you're like, oh wow, I'm here, and I can't, like, that's, dope. Why you call yourself Dark Zuckerberg?
It's a nickname. From all the web. I mean, I'm the guy everybody calls, and they have like a web tech, business question. I always say I'm the hood MBA. I was one of the top students in my Georgia Tech class. I wear the same thing every day, which kind of also helps further solidify it. So I'm all on this big on this life uniform kick right now for the last 4 years.
You said you changed it up every 2, but you've been wearing black tees for 4. Like, what's going on? When we gonna switch the color?
I've been thinking about changing it up a little bit. I don't know.
What about gray?
Thinking about it.
It's like right there.
No, I ain't changing the t-shirts. I think I'm just gonna start like wearing some shoes with some color in them a little bit. Like,
Okay.
I'm keeping it small, but no, I made the switch. And, that's a whole tech Mark Zuckerberg thing. It just makes my life easier. To just wake up, just boom, I grab something, I can start moving. I don't have to worry about stuff. So there was all. My boy Jason, I think, gave me that nickname back in the day when I was running tech at Edelman, and it just always kind of stuck. You know what I'm saying?
What is next for you, and then what do you think is next for Butter?
Hey man, well, I'm pretty tied to Butter, so I think what's next for both of us is just I always say more and better is the short answer. I think for us, people all, we always say we're not just an Instagram page, we're a media company. And I think, we've made our mark on IG as strategically as a starting place. Now it's time to kind of start showing up in more places, more areas, more platforms. So that's really what we're kind of been looking at is,
so what do you hope that Butter does, like, in the long game?
I hope that it just becomes, so here's the thing, right? Like Atlanta, there hasn't been a modern media company formed in Atlanta really since CNN. And that's another good book I read. If you read the autobiography of Ted Turner, it's a really good book. He's a media guy, so it's a really good read for especially what I'm doing. But I kind of think about because of that, Butter is really a media company that was kind of formed after everybody had cell phones and social media. So my hope is that it just becomes one of the most relevant media brands, media companies in Atlanta specifically, after social and mobile were kind of at scale. In other words, as a person that works in creative and marketing, I know for a fact that people from Atlanta don't get to tell their own stories. Usually you get shops from New York and LA and Chicago, is where all the companies and headquarters are. And they're oh yeah, Atlanta's cool, let's go. So they hire somebody from New York and they fly them down here, and then they give you the Beltline version of Atlanta. They give you the version of Atlanta when they go on Google and type in cool things to do in a city. My hope is that Butter becomes Butter becomes that real alternative. You know what I'm saying? Of what? Yeah, we could do that, or we could also look at this. A good example of it was 404 Day. Last year. So 404 Day was run by agency it was run by Translation, I think, out of New York, which is Steve Stout's agency. And, they did a big campaign with AT&T. And it was cool, but it really felt if I'm just being totally honest, somebody went on Google and typed in Atlanta. And then whatever was on the first page was all right, we're going to build an event like that. And I think if you talk to anybody from Atlanta, they all felt the same way. They were where'd this come from? Who, you know what I mean?
Right. I actually thought that. Yeah, I was what
they
is
got
this?
people in it, but it just didn't feel authentic. And I think when we did 404 Day this year, because they didn't do it, we ended up doing it. It felt more authentic. And so that's my whole thing, right? I just hope, let's say AT&T decides they want to come back and do that thing. Maybe next time they're looking and saying, all right, let's look and see who is close to the culture, who's in the city, who's in Atlanta that has the capability and the audience and the ability to kind of do this and do it justice. So that's my hope is that, Butter is involved in more of those conversations, and, we're, and it's happening slowly but surely, you know what I'm saying? But, I hope we get it, because that just gives us the ability to make sure the things that are created, are still authentic to, the ATL. Because if not, that's when it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. I think the last question I got for you is what's the most Atlanta thing about you think?
Most Atlanta thing about me. what can I say without incriminating most Atlanta thing about me is, and you gotta be real Atlanta for this one, but the first strip club I went to was Montrose, and I was probably 13 years old.
Oh.
So, and I say that for a reason, not just because, but like, so Montrose, like if you're from Atlanta, like Montrose is like, it's Peaches, it was a Peaches of Atlanta now or something.
Oh, so it's over by the West End. Okay.
It's over in the West End. It's
right,
underneath the train. It's like
right there, right
like
beside it. But in that, yep.
And so that used to be the most hood ass strip club in the area. It was called Montrose.
It still looks like the most hood ass strip club ever.
It's pretty hood, but it's a lot better than it was. And you know, they didn't care. Like I remember I went in there, and I didn't have no hair on my face. I ain't had no ID. They still let me in. I'm pretty sure the stripper looked like Eartha Kitt. Like it wasn't hot, you know, but I can definitely say, like, if you grew up and you went to Montrose, like that's pretty Atlanta. You know, I grew up going to, the Nike Pavilion, the warehouse. You know, I remember when they built the jail on Memorial Drive because we shut down Freaknik, you know what I'm saying? And I used to work at Freaknik. I used to work at South DeKalb Mall during Freaknik in '95. So, you know,
yeah,
I got stored.
I just barely missed the Freaknik era more than just barely missed it. But I wish I was here for that, man. I was just memories that I don't have. All right, so Mr. Butler, man, thank you so much for jumping on the call with me, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. Appreciate the invite, man. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Oh, one last question. What is something that you have kept up with in this quarantine that you are surprised that you have continued to do, or something that you developed that you didn't see yourself doing? For me, it's brushing my teeth. I'm gonna be honest, like, cause I'm like, yo, I got up and I brushed my teeth today because sometimes you don't feel like doing nothing, but I'm like, nah, I don't care if I don't do nothing. I'm brushing my teeth and then going back to bed. So like, what's one of those things, or a new thing?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it would probably be just some, you know, stuff around the house. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm usually busy all the time. You know, I bought this house like 9-10 years ago, and there was just like little things I just never had a chance to kind of do that I've been doing. I'm actually pretty handy. A lot of people don't know that, but so like I redid my screen porch. You know what I'm saying? So my kids could have some place to go outside. So I think it's probably that. It's just like I've been constantly kind of like doing little home improvement projects that I just never got a chance to get around to.
So you technology and you handy.
Yeah, man. Look, man.
Shout out to Miss Butler. Yeah, she got herself a baller. She didn't even know. Like, you just popping.
And I've been cooking. I mean, that's probably another thing, man. I've definitely been. I like to cook, you know. So I've been stepping up my cooking game significantly, you know. So
tired of
cooking. Yeah, man. Just trying to make the best out of it, man, as much as possible.
That's what's up. So yeah, I think that was really my last question. I said that 3 questions ago, but So appreciate you hopping on the call with me, man. That's pretty much it. We out. That's it, guys. Thanks for listening. You can follow us on the Instagrams at the OVT Network, and you can follow me, JC, at JC from the OVT. Very simple, right? This podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, and pretty much everywhere in between. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment and rate us 5 stars if you were so inclined. Thank you. Quarantine Talks is a podcast that is also available on YouTube. Just type in the OVT Network and hit subscribe for all of the latest and greatest from we at the OVT. Lastly, we are an independent and Black-owned media network, guys. So if you enjoyed the content and you would like to drop a donation, you may do so on Cash App or the Venmo at the OVT Network. All one word, the OVT Network. Quarantine Talks is edited and produced by me, JC, with original music produced by Brian Haddon. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Stay safe, stay creative, and most importantly, stay sane. Find your peace, man. It's crazy out here. Laters.